It's no coincidence that you're watching this video right now. God has some truths He wants to reveal to you, and through watching and receiving and hearing His voice, He will transform every part of your life.
How many of you have heard about a spirit of excellence? Now, I want to explain to you what that word excellence means in the book of Daniel. It's used a number of times in the book of Daniel. That word excellence, and we'll pick it up through the different verses a couple times, but that word excellence Amen. Daniel chapter 2, and I'm going to pick it up in verse 31. That word excellence there means exceedingly. It means greater than. It means bigger than. And I'll go through some scriptures where the same Hebrew word is used a number of different times. It's the exact same Hebrew word. Now, sometimes it would be translated as exceedingly. Sometimes it would be translated as greater than or bigger than. And so I'm going to read it, and then you can mark that word, but it's the same Hebrew word. So what did He say about us? Greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world. So why did Daniel become ruler over a kingdom? Because greater. He had a spirit of greater. That's literally how it actually translates. So in modern day English, we just say a spirit of excellence. We say a spirit of excellence. But in modern day, if it was literally translated, we would have said a spirit of greater. A greater spirit. What does the New Testament teach us? John 4:4. Greater is He that is in you. Amen. So, Daniel 2, verse 31. You, O king, were watching and beholding, and there was a single greater statue. That statue, which was large and of extraordinary radiance. Now, this is the dream of the king that he's interpreting. Was standing in front of you, and its appearance was awesome. That word there, extraordinary, or I'm not sure what word is used in the King James. You can help me out. Extraordinary radiance. That word extraordinary is the exact same word as the word excellence. Now, jump to the same chapter, just a few verses on. Now, the reason I'm reading this, I'm going to skip and then read, skip and read, because it's used at different times. So literally, every time it's used about greater. The word greater is every time used about a kingdom, another kingdom, or a dream. Does it make sense? Another kingdom or a dream. In other words, something out in the world is greater. But then the one time he says, you had a greater spirit. Exact same thing that was said about us in John 4, chapter 4, verse 4. Now, let's read in chapter 3, verse 22. Let's just jump over. For this reason, because the king's command was harsh, and the furnace had been made extremely hot. That word extremely means exceedingly. It means greater than. In other words, it was biggest fire ever. That's literally what it actually means. It's the greatest. It's the exceeding. It's the greatest fire. It's the biggest fire. The flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So the guys that threw them in the fire burned up, but they that were in the fire did not burn up. Why? Because they had a spirit of excellence. So the fire was greater, but the spirit in them was greater than the fire. Do you see what this is getting at? All right. Now let's flip over chapter 4 and verse 36. Chapter 4 and verse 36. At that time, my reason returned to me, and my majesty and splendor were restored to me for the honor of my kingdom, and my state counselors and my nobles began to seek me out. So I was reestablished in my sovereignty, and surpassing greatness was added to me. Now remember, the king Nebuchadnezzar there had a dream how he had fallen and risen back up, and then he was, the second half of his kingdom was greater than the first half of his kingdom, and God forewarned him in a warning that this will happen because of the pride in his heart and stuff like that. Remember the whole thing. And so that word there, greater, is the exact same word as the word excellence in the book of Daniel that speaks about a spirit of excellence. Now let's go over to chapter 5, verse 1, and we'll read about this. Let's start in verse 11, in fact, in the second half of the verse. Actually, let's just read the whole of verse 11, would be fine. It says, there is a man in your kingdom. Now, this is the enchanters that's talking to King Nebuchadnezzar, and they're talking to him about Daniel. And this is what they say about Daniel. There is a man in your kingdom in whom is a spirit of the holy gods, and in the days of your father, illumination, insight, wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, were found in him. And King Nebuchadnezzar, your father, the king, appointed him chief over the soothsayers, priests, sorcerers, Chaldeans, and diviners. This was because an extraordinary spirit, the King James, I believe, would say an excellent spirit, knowledge and insight, interpretations of dreams, explanation of riddles, and solving of difficult problems were found in this Daniel, whom the king named Belshazzar. What spirit was found in him? An excellent spirit. Verse 14, so just a few verses on, verse 14. Now I have heard about you, that a spirit of the gods is in you, and that illumination, insight, and extraordinary, that word extraordinary there, the King James, I think, would use exceedingly or greater. I'm not sure which word it's using, but it says, and extraordinary wisdom have been found in you. That word extraordinary there in Hebrew means great, the excellent spirit. It's exact same word as the word excellent in the Hebrew, right? When it's talking about the statue in chapter 6, verse 3, it's talking about the statue. Now remember, the statue was a bunch of kingdoms. And all these kingdoms, he says in verse 3, he says, then this Daniel began distinguishing himself among the commissioners and satraps because he possessed an extraordinary spirit, and the king intended to appoint him over the entire kingdom. So why did David rule over everything? Because he had an exceedingly great spirit. A greater spirit, a bigger spirit. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. Amen. And all of this has to do with one thing: looking unto Jesus.
Comment down below what God just revealed to you. Share this video with somebody that is in need to hear it, as God is sharing with you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and follow us.